The anime opened with Makio riding the subway, silently heading toward a destination she clearly did not want to reach. Her gloomy expression made it obvious that this was not shaping up to be one of the better days of her life. As the train rattled along, she listened to the radio, which was reporting on a traffic accident that had resulted in the death of a passenger. According to the broadcast, a truck had slammed into a car with lethal results. It seemed that Truck-kun, having apparently taken a vacation from his usual ice guy duties, had wandered into the wrong genre entirely. Unfortunately for the victim, this was not an ice guy story. So no reincarnation, no overpowered abilities, and certainly no heroic second chance were on the table. The news unsettled Makio more than she cared to admit. The passenger who had died was her older sister. Almost as if her mind refused to process the information quietly, her sister briefly appeared before her in a vision, asking whether Makio had anything she wanted to say. The hallucination lasted only a moment, but it struck her deeply, leaving her shaken long after it vanished. Makio was on her way to the hospital, where her sister's body was being kept. When she arrived, she was greeted by her mother and a young girl named Asa. Asa introduced herself as the daughter of the woman who had died in the accident. Makio's mother then explained, with a tone that allowed no easy escape, that Asa had nowhere else to go. She urged Makio to take the girl in. Makio, being less than enthusiastic about suddenly becoming a caretaker, attempted to wriggle out of the responsibility with a series of excuses. Unfortunately for her, morality was firmly on her mother's side. With a masterful display of emotional pressure, some might even call it emotional blackmail, her mother succeeded. Makio agreed, reluctantly, to take Asa in. Afterward, Makio and Asa went to the cafeteria to get something to eat. One might have expected Asa to be too distraught to touch her food, but reality proved otherwise. Asa ate with impressive enthusiasm, which was unsettling in its own way. Losing one's mother and then immediately displaying the appetite of someone at an all-you-can-eat buffet was, to say the least, mildly disturbing. Once they finished eating, Makio asked Asa a question she considered important. She wondered aloud whether Asa even understood how she felt. Asa's calm behavior after losing her only parent made the question unavoidable. Makio then admitted that she herself felt very little grief over her sister's death. She confessed that she and her sister had never gotten along. In fact, learning that her sister had been crushed by a truck had affected her about as much as being hit with a marshmallow thrown by an infant. However, she did feel sympathy for Asa, who would now have to grow up without a mother. It was then that Makio introduced Asa to the idea of journaling. She explained that if Asa did not know how she felt, or felt nothing at all, she could simply write about her day. According to Makio, the act of writing could help ground emotions, even unclear ones. She added that Asa did not even need to reread the journal. When the time came, it could serve as a quiet guide, pointing her toward the right direction in life. Asa found this perspective intriguing, and eventually went to live with Makio. The funeral did little to improve Asa's situation. Most of the attendees showed little interest in comforting the grieving child. Instead, they busied themselves with gossip, speculating about whether Asa was truly the deceased woman's daughter. Asa sat among the crowd, isolated and emotionally detached, unsure what to feel and uninterested in the people around her. Fortunately, she possessed a remarkable talent for tuning others out entirely. Once the funeral ended, she returned with Makio to her new home. The next morning, Makio prepared breakfast for both of them, and they shared a surprisingly warm meal together. During breakfast, Makio took the opportunity to apologize for her behavior at the funeral. She admitted that she had vented her hatred toward her older sister in front of Asa, making it painfully clear that she felt no regret over her sister's death. Her words had not been spoken calmly. They had been fueled by anger and a long-suppressed need to release it. She had also made it abundantly clear, in the least welcoming way possible, that Asa was free to stay, while warning her that the house was always messy and that her mood was perpetually unpleasant. Given the circumstances, the apology was well-deserved, and it was refreshing to see Makio acknowledge her mistake. Asa, however, appeared completely unaffected. Neither her mother's death nor Makio's harsh words seemed to leave a mark. They slid off her like grains of sand, carried away by the wind without resistance. The only thing that truly captured Asa's interest was journaling. She decided to give it a try and began writing about the past few days in an attempt to understand her emotions better. With quiet determination, she put pen to paper. Unfortunately, progress was painfully slower even than a student staring helplessly at a calculus exam. No matter how hard she tried, she could not figure out what to write. Makio eventually stepped in and reassured her that the journal did not need to be perfect. She told Asa that it could even contain lies. After all, no one else would read it. There was no one to judge her, no one to call her dishonest. On those pages, Asa was the sole authority. Whatever she wrote became her reality, one she could shape and reshape as she wished. Asa found Makio's words deeply compelling. In that moment, she imagined Makio as a princess seated upon a throne in a vast, empty land. For the first time, Asa began to grasp what journaling truly meant, and why it might matter. The episode opens with Makio staring at her computer screen, her gaze fixed yet unfocused as her thoughts spiral inward, searching for the perfect words to shape her novel. She is clearly trapped in the grip of writer's block. No matter how hard she tries, her fingers refuse to produce a single line worthy of the story she wants to tell. Instead of moving forward, she deletes several sentences she had already written, dissatisfied with them upon rereading. Her intense concentration gradually fades, and she is pulled back into the real world by the newest addition to her household, Asa. Asa gently asks whether it would be acceptable for her to clean the apartment. Makio, fully aware that the place has been neglected for quite some time, hesitates. Allowing a recently adopted teenager to clean felt uncomfortably close to child labor rather than a simple chore assigned by a guardian. Despite Makio's reluctance, Asa insists that she genuinely enjoys tidying up and would have fun doing it. Faced with Asa's enthusiasm, Makio begins to feel that stopping her would be more morally questionable than allowing her to proceed. She eventually agrees, permitting Asa to clean if it truly means that much to her. While cleaning, Asa begins to hum softly to herself. Rather than feeling distracted, Makio finds herself thinking about how beautiful Asa's singing is. This quiet moment reveals more about Makio's character than one might expect. Writing is a mentally demanding craft. Carefully arranging words to evoke emotion takes a significant toll. Yet, despite her writer's instincts urging her to focus, Makio is able to set that aside and appreciate Asa's talent for what it is. Even in mild distraction, her ability to value Asa's presence hints that she may be far more suited to motherhood than she realizes, despite her messy apartment and emotional distance, traits that will become increasingly evident. Later, after lunch, Makio informs an old friend that she has adopted a teenager. As a trusted confidant and longtime partner in mischief, the friend decides to visit later that same day. When Asa witnesses the two friends interacting, she is stunned. They behave less like adults and more like children, speaking and acting in ways Asa has never encountered before. Their dynamic feels so foreign that Asa's vivid imagination likens it to watching two people conversing in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Through this interaction, Asa begins to see a different side of Makio. The stern and unyielding figure she first encountered slowly dissolves, replaced by someone more human, capable of mistakes, warmth, and emotional vulnerability, rather than an unmovable rock that requires force to crack. Makio's friend Nana Daigo suggests that the three of them cook together. Asa, eager and restless, immediately volunteers, as though boredom itself were chasing her. Makio initially resists, reasoning that Asa has already taken on the responsibility of cleaning, which should be more than enough. However, the disappointment on Asa's face softens Makio's resolve, and she agrees. It is decided that they will cook gyoza, with Nana taking the role of head chef. In her self-appointed position, Nana offers little physical help, and instead busies herself issuing detailed instructions, micromanaging the process with playful authority. As she does so, her strict demeanor briefly softens when she admits that making gyoza reminds her of a man she once had feelings for. The gentle nostalgia quickly shifts into barely contained anger, strongly suggesting that the romance ended poorly. Eventually, the dish is completed, and Nana adds a secret sauce to enhance the flavor. The trio shares a satisfying meal, followed by dessert. Afterward, Nana prepares to leave. Before she goes, she smiles warmly at Makio and tells her that her entire life is about to change. Once Nana is gone, Ace approaches Makio, clearly wanting to unburden herself. She explains that when Makio told her not to feel guilty about lacking sorrow, those words brought her immense comfort. Asa admits she has been struggling internally, uneasy with herself and not being overwhelmed by grief after her mother's death. Makio's reassurance that it was acceptable to feel nothing at all helped ease that conflict. Makio reiterates that Asa's emotions belong solely to her, and that there is no reason to feel ashamed of whatever emotions, or lack thereof, come to her at any moment. Asa promises to share everything with Makio from now on. In a rare and difficult moment, Makio feels the same resolve take shape within herself. For the first time, she is willing to share her own emotions with this growing young person in her care. Still, she makes it clear that she has never been a parent before, and that she will inevitably fall short. She asks Asa not to place too much pressure on her. Asa then asks whether Makio means pressure like the kind her mother used to apply, phrases such as asking why she could not even manage something so simple. Those words strike Makio deeply, like a horn tearing through fragile flesh. In that instant, it becomes painfully clear that Makio's older sister, Asa's mother, had been subjecting Asa to a subtle yet damaging form of emotional torment, likely without realizing it. Asa's innocence has so far shielded her from fully understanding the depth of those wounds. Makio, however, shaped by similar experiences, understands all too well the lasting psychological scars such words can leave as a child grows into adulthood. The following day, Makio is sitting alone in a quiet restaurant, deliberately choosing a seat along the side where she feels most anonymous. She drinks her tea in silence when a stranger suddenly approaches and asks for her autograph from one of her books. The unexpected social interaction startles her, sending a brief surge of tension through her body. However, the shock quickly subsides when she recognizes a familiar face standing before her. The man is Kasamachi, the person she had scheduled an urgent meeting with that day. He is revealed to be Makio's former boyfriend and, despite their past, still one of her closest friends. Kasamachi begins a conversation by discussing Makio's latest novel, commenting thoughtfully on one of its characters. He praises the book as a strong piece of literature, but admits that the ambiguous ending left him feeling uneasy. In response, Makio explains that she is considering abandoning the story altogether, as it is not selling well. She reflects with quiet regret that the characters may be forced to meet their end, not because their story is complete, but because the book failed to satisfy the subjective expectations of its readers. The discussion then shifts to the real reason for their meeting, Asa. Kasamachi admits that he felt hurt when he heard about Makio's decision to adopt a child, especially since she had always insisted that she never wanted children. Makio listens before sharing her growing concern. She explains that she has noticed Asa sleeping excessively and suspects it may be an unconscious coping mechanism for unresolved trauma. What troubles Makio most is that Asa herself may not even be aware of it. Makio confesses that adopting someone so young frightens her. She understands too well that at such a vulnerable age, even the smallest words or actions from others can shape a person for better or worse. This realization weighs heavily on her, particularly because she knows she is still haunted by words spoken to her long ago, remarks that may have seemed insignificant to the person who said them, yet left lasting scars. In response, Kasamachi quietly admits that some of Makio's own words once shaped him as well. He chooses not to specify which ones, acknowledging that she has likely forgotten them entirely. After their conversation comes to an end, the two part ways. Makio eventually returns home, where she finds Asa reading one of her novels. In that moment, Makio feels as though it's not the book being read, but herself, laid bare page by page. She gently tells Asa that it is time for them to visit Asa's old home and go through her belongings. Makio acknowledges that doing so may reopen wounds from the past, but she believes it is a necessary step if Asa is to truly move forward. The third episode opens in the mailroom of Asa's former residence, where she stands beside Makio in front of her late mother's letterbox. Minori Takumi had lived alone with Asa in apartment 702, and the mailbox, unsurprisingly, was crammed to the brim. It was clearly filled with letters addressed to Asa, condolences from countless people who had learned of her mother's passing. When Asa opened the box, the stack of envelopes spilled onto the floor in a small avalanche. After gathering them up, the two made their way upstairs to apartment 702, the home Minori Takumi had left behind. The moment they stepped inside, they were struck by the stale, suffocating air. Makio explained that this was what happened when an apartment sat unoccupied for too long, with every door, window, and vent sealed shut, even though the weather was cold. She decided to open a window, reasoning that a bit of chill was a small price to pay to avoid suffocating. She then told Asa that she would sort through the clothes worth salvaging, while Asa could collect any everyday items she wanted to keep. Asa hesitated, pointing out that Makio's apartment was small and clearly designed for one person. She asked what she was really allowed to take. Makio, however, understood how much weight old belongings could carry, especially when they belonged to a deceased parent. She made it clear that Asa should take anything she wanted. Space didn't matter. Regret did. The only thing Asa needed to ensure was that she wouldn't later wish she had taken more. While gathering usable clothes, Makio stumbled upon something unexpected, an old middle school uniform belonging to her elder sister. The discovery genuinely surprised her. She had never imagined her sister as the type to keep things for sentimental reasons. In Makio's memory, her sister had always been distant and cold, and the idea of her holding on to something purely for nostalgia felt completely out of character. The irony wasn't lost on Makio either. She herself had thrown out her own school uniform immediately after graduating. When Asa heard this, she found behavior oddly fascinating and more than a little strange. As Makio continued searching, she began to notice that many of the clothes her sister had worn didn't match the fashion sense she remembered at all. As a writer, this realization led her into quiet reflection. Life, she thought, was unbearably fleeting. Objects that had once belonged exclusively to her sister, things no one else was ever meant to touch, were now being sorted, salvaged, or discarded within a matter of hours. Her sister's books would be returned, her clothes thrown away, her neglected plants left to wither. It felt as though Makio was dismantling her sister's presence piece by piece, erasing her not just from the apartment, but from the physical world itself. Eventually, Makio found a coat that caught her eye. She insisted that Asa try it on. Though it was far larger than Asa would normally wear, Makio felt strongly that Asa should keep at least a few of her mother's clothes as mementos, rather than discarding everything. After all, the coat could always be altered, or Asa might simply grow into it one day. Asa didn't feel strongly either way and agreed, without protest. For a brief, unsettling moment, Makio imagined her elder sister standing behind her, remarking that perhaps Makio herself was the one clinging to these memories. The image vanished the instant Makio turned around, disappearing as abruptly as a specter from a horror film. In the end, once everything had been sorted and removed, the task was complete. Standing in a now empty apartment, Makio offered a quiet, final farewell to her elder sister, closing the chapter on what remained of her life in that place. A few days later, Asa was scheduled to attend her middle school graduation ceremony. She had already passed her final exams before her mother's death and was now preparing to leave the home of her new guardian, Makio. That morning, she rushed out in a flurry of nerves and excitement, barely pausing as Makio snapped a hurried photograph of her, one that turned out blurry and poorly framed. Just before stepping out the door, Asa called back that she wanted pizza for dinner so they could celebrate her graduation together that night. Upon arriving at school, Asa was startled to see Amiri running toward her, tears streaming down her face as though something terrible had happened. While it was true that Asa's mother had recently passed away, Amiri's reaction felt out of place on a day that should have begun with smiles and congratulations. Asa sensed immediately that this distress was about something else entirely. Before Amiri could explain, however, a teacher interrupted and asked Asa to come to the office, saying there was something important they needed to discuss. Amiri refused to stay silent. Despite the teacher's attempt to stop her, she blurted out the truth. The entire school now knew about Asa's mother's death. Amiri admitted that she had told her own mother, who then informed the school without Asa's consent. The administration, believing they were being considerate, had decided to announce the news to Asa's class, so no one would say or do anything insensitive during the ceremony. The teacher then escorted Asa to the staff room and began asking questions about the guardian she was currently living with. At that point, Asa finally snapped. Any attempt at rational thought gave way to raw emotion. She lashed out, declaring that all she had ever wanted was to graduate like a normal girl. Now, she felt certain that everyone at the ceremony would look at her differently, not as a peer celebrating a milestone, but as a pitiful child without parents. She hated the idea of being seen through that lens, of being stared at with sympathy and unspoken judgments. Overcome with anger, Asa stormed out of the staff room, kicking a trash bin aside as she left the building and headed for home. In her fury, she even told Amiri that she hated her, shattering her friend's heart without pausing to think about the weight of her words. It was only after she had walked for some time that Asa realized she could not remember the way back to Makio's house. Her emotions had clouded her mind so completely that she could not perform a task that would normally have been effortless. Eventually, she contacted Makio and admitted that she was lost. Makio came to pick her up without hesitation. Back home, Asa was given a foot bath, and the simple comfort of it helped her calm down and think more clearly. She explained what had happened at school and confessed that she had decided to skip the graduation ceremony altogether. Her words were sharp and heated, as the frustration was still fresh, but Makio listened quietly, maintaining her composure and responding with steady calm. Makio then shared her own experience with graduation. She explained that, although she had always been something of an outlaw and disliked social interaction, she had still attended her ceremony. In truth, she could barely remember the event itself, which showed how little value she had placed on it. What she did remember, however, were the friends who had stood beside her. The ceremony mattered to them, and that was why she had gone. Makio told Asa that even if she was not particularly outgoing, that did not change the fact that she needed friends, and that having people who had known her since her teenage years was something truly special. Later that evening, after Asa had finally cooled down from the day's turmoil, the two of them ordered pizza to celebrate her graduation after all. As they ate, Makio recalled a moment from her past when a friend had given her a letter, nothing more than a torn page from a notebook. It had read, "These 6 years, I wouldn't have been able to breathe without you. Thanks, now and always." Makio admitted that the friend who wrote it probably did not even remember those words anymore. At the time, it had only been a brief, quiet moment, but for her, it was profound. She still remembered those lines clearly, even though the details of her graduation itself had long faded. In a way, it reflected who Makio was. Someone who did not value ceremonies or formal milestones, but deeply cherished small, sincere expressions of human emotion. Hearing this, Asa was reminded of a moment she had shared with Amiri, when her friend had once told her that the only time she truly felt like herself was when she was with Asa. That memory lingered, heavy with regret. Asa finally decided to call Amiri to apologize for her harsh words. When she checked her phone, she found it filled with messages. Amiri had been sending apology texts one after another. When they finally spoke, tears streamed down Asa's face. She realized just how grateful she was to have a friend like Amiri, someone who stayed by her side even when everything seemed to fall apart.